What's up, everybody? This is Dan Walker from Eggheads DFS. I wanted to do a quick video here, just kind of an intro, I guess, to DFS. I've had some members and just some people talking back and forth with my business partner Chris, and just kind of discussing playing daily fantasy sports. And I always forget that we were at one point, years ago, in the same boat as some people that you can play lineups and you can enter contests, and maybe you don't know what you're playing or what you're supposed to be playing. So just want to do a quick rundown of your basic how you enter lineups on DraftKings and FanDuel, what kind of contests you should play, whether it's cash or GPPs, a little breakdown of what those are, and then the ratio that I kind of stick to when I'm playing lineups on DraftKings or FanDuel, whatever it may be, to ensure that I have, a long-term success playing DFS. I'll start out by saying, DFS is not a, get rich quick kind of thing. A lot of people think it might be, but, the people that win 50,000, 100,000, the pros you see, they don't win that, every single night. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get to that hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the thing I want to stress is I focus more on, playing every night and being consistent. Now, I can't tell everybody to do that and hope that they do. I know, it's a compulsive sport that we play. It is gambling. So, some people one night might pick up a penny on the sidewalk that's heads and think they need to go 50% of their bankroll. And then when they lose, they're bummed out about it. But really what I want to focus on here, and I'll just start and share my screen. Every morning I typically will look at the slate, obviously, but I'll also just kind of get my lines into something. So when I put a lineup together, and this is literally just a lineup I did this morning, I just clicked people. I call it a dummy lineup. So I do this every morning. I do this on FanDuel. I do this on DraftKings. So I pick the lineup that I want to play, just to get a lineup in, right? So your best contests, like your single entry double ups, which are cash games, and we'll run through that in a minute. Those fill. So you want to get in those the earlier the better. So I typically put a dummy lineup together. Now on DraftKings, you can reserve contests ahead of time, and you can do that, without a lineup, basically. So you can go in and click reserve on a contest. You can also kind of go through and edit what you want to play. But the thing with that is, and the issue with that is not every site's the same, right? So FanDuel, you can't do that. FanDuel, you have to have a lineup that you have to enter. You can't just reserve contests with no lineup and go back and edit it. So I'll run through DraftKings and why I do this. And reason, I guess, why I do it is because FanDuel is different. So I mentioned you have to have a dummy lineup on FanDuel to reserve stuff. So typically it just rolls over to DraftKings. So I just put a lineup in, and then I go into DraftKings and I reserve what I want to do the same way I would on FanDuel. So I'll bring up the lobby right now. So I've got the contest lobby pulled up here. So the ratio I try to stick to, and I'll start with this. So the ratio I stick to is 80-20. So that means I play 80% cash games and I play 20% GPPs or tournaments. So cash games to me are your 50-50s, double ups. You can play some head-to-heads as well. I recommend doing that just because you might have a night where, who knows, you have a guy get injured, but the person you're playing head-to-head also has them, and you end up winning and you get some money back. So never a bad idea. But your cash games are going to be your 50-50s and double ups. So if I'm playing 80-20 and say I play $100 a night, I'm playing 80% cash, 20% tourneys. So I'm playing $80 cash, $20 tourneys. I just use $100. It's easier to do. Everybody can do that math. So typically, you'll see edit next to these, and that's because I'm already in them. But I would strongly recommend, if you're playing cash games, always get in the single entry double ups. the $5, the $25, there's a $10, there's a $2 a lot of times. Yeah, they actually just posted another one. So I recommend these single entries. This just gives you an edge on the pros. And these main ones that we see here, you know, the $5, the 25, the 10, on the bigger slates, those are posted every morning. And as you can see, this is only 600 entries away, and we still have 3 hours to lock. So this will fill. So that's why I say in the morning, you know, put a dummy lineup together, just click a bunch of guys that fit, hit save, and then go in here and start entering your lineups into the single entry 5, single entry 25, single entry 10. I always play all of the single entry double ups. Like I said, you know, the pros everybody only gets one bullet in those. So it's a more level playing field when you do those. Rather than the $5 double up, which is multiple 103 entries with 3,400. So, you know, your pros are going to enter that 103 times, and you might only enter it once. So you're at a huge disadvantage. Even if your line goes off, you're at a huge disadvantage just because you only have one shot into that, or maybe you only have 5, and they have 103. So I guess the one thing to look out for when you're entering cash games, you're entering double ups or whatever it may be, on DraftKings, which is nice, they have an M next to it, which means multi-entry. So I tend to avoid those. I don't enter the multi-entries. If I do, I'm maxing them out. So the 20 entry like this, you know, I would throw 20 entries in. For the casual player, I would recommend just stick to the single entries. If you're playing $80 cash, like I said, you know, here's 5, here's 25, that's 30, there's 10, that's 40, here's 45, here's 47, 49. And then, you know, they always have some 50-50s as well. And I don't mind these $1 double ups either. I try to stick. These 229 ones are okay. I don't like anything less than 229. I don't like the 62s. I don't like the 109s, whatever it may be. I don't typically join those. I try to get the large single entries that they post, or even these 229 ones. But the 50-50s, you'll see, you know, they have a $5 typically. It's 100 people. I like that. I don't play the $20 ones. And then, you know, your $2, you've got 200 ones here. So I like to join those. Your $1, there's typically, you know, 100-person one. There's a lot of $50 ones. So I'm okay with the 50-person ones, excuse me. I'm okay with the 50-person ones. I just don't like the 20-person ones. And typically these 50-person ones are only in the $1, which I guess that's more common what people can play. So it makes sense. Excuse me. So that's kind of what I do. That's kind of what I enter. I do this every single morning. If I'm playing $100, I'll enter $80 worth of single entry double ups and those 50-50s you saw. And then also with my main line, which I only use one line a night. So let's dial that back a little bit. I play one line. I call it my cash line, but I also play it in some tournaments as well. So tournaments for me are the same thing as double ups as far as the approach. So I only play single entry GPPs with my cash line. And by cash line, I mean the main line that I was just referencing for my cash games. The reason I do this is obviously in cash games like double ups and 50-50s, you're maxed out. So if you play a $5 double up, you can only win $10 or net $5. If you play a $5 50-50, you can only win $9 or net $4. GPPs or tournaments, you can win up to, you know, $5,000, $6,000 on some of these big single entries. So I always recommend playing these. So if you're playing $80 in cash games and you're playing $20 in tournaments, play the $12, you know, play the $5, the $3. There's typically a bunch of different ones you can jump into. Here's a $5, a 2,300 person, 1,100 person. When you're using your main lineup, I don't really get as picky as far as how many entries there are. If I'm using, you know, a tournament lineup and I'm doing a single entry tournament, I like to play higher dollar, lower entries. But with my cash line, my main line, I throw it into whichever one I can. So tonight I'll throw it in this $12, which, like I said before, pays out $3,000. So if your cash line just goes nuts, and I've had nights, and I know a lot of my subscribers have had nights where it's like, you know, yeah, the cash line went nuts. I was first in every single double up. well, how much did you win in a GPP? I didn't join any. And it's like, oh my God, what would I have won if I joined this, or what would I have won if I joined that? So to me, you just never want to be in that situation. I do know that, sometimes your cash will hit and it won't hit in GPPs, but that's why I do that 80-20. If I'm only playing $20 in GPPs and I played $80 in cash, if I double up on my $80, that's 160. And if I lose the 20, I'm still profiting, $40 right there. So like I said before, DFS is a grind for me. I play basically about the same percent. I play about 5 to 10% of my bankroll every single night. I don't deviate from that unless, I'm massing a tournament. So, they'll have like the 3 entry max $150. I'll play that sometimes. The 20 entry max $4. I'll play that sometimes. But I'm doing that not every single night. I'm literally just doing that. Sometimes I like to get a little different, play something different. But if you're trying to be successful over a long period of time playing daily fantasy sports, you have to be consistent on what you bet and you have to be consistent on what you play. So, like I said before, I use the 80-20 rule. I don't know where I heard that. It might have been from an article a long time ago, but I've really stuck to that since I started playing. It's helped me a lot. And I just think, if you continue to do that, you're not losing a lot and you can still gain a lot. So I've had nights where, I'll win $100 in cash, and that's awesome. But I've had a night where my line wins a $40 and I win $5,000. So, you got to stay consistent and you got to just stay consistent on what you play. But I really just wanted to run through that and just kind of give an idea of how I approach things, mainly for my subscribers, but also just for anybody that is curious. I mean, someone says, hey, here's a lineup, or hey, I'm building around these people tonight, and you go and play it. I mean, okay, next step, what do I play it in? How much am I supposed to play in this? So really wanted to just outline that. Like I said, single entry double ups, I play 80% of those of my money for the night. 20% of that goes into tournaments, which are your, GPPs as we call them. But I like the single entry ones of those too. And DraftKings has a shit ton of them normally, and so does FanDuel. FanDuel always offers like a 1, 3, 5 type, payout structure that they have, but it's every single night they have the same thing, which, if I'm trying to be consistent with what I'm playing, I love it when sites are consistent about what they offer. Just makes it a lot easier for me. And, I also think, the big thing that I want to just kind of reemphasize here and talk about again is that I know people want to take a lineup and say, oh man, we didn't even hit GPPs. I want to stress that the GPPs are literally, for me, in my opinion, are literally just there as like, what if kind of things. I mean, I don't play GPPs every night thinking, oh, my cash line is going to take this down, because my cash line is meant to place in the top, 40%. It's not meant to try to place in the top 1% every single night. There's a safety to it when I build a cash line, and, I play the chalk. If I was building a GPP line, which I do provide, you'll notice, I mean, some of the plays that I go for are 1% owned, 5% owned, and that's just to get leverage. And I am trying to win that. I'm not trying to win a tournament when I provide a cash line. It just so happens sometimes that cash line does so well that it does win a GPP. And I think the really good providers, that do a good job providing solid cash lines, you'll see that every now and then they will have someone win a GPP or a tournament or a small single entry or whatever it may be. You'll see that someone will win with a cash line that they're provided. It's a testament to some of the providers out there. We've had a line this year where, someone played it in a single entry and won a tournament, and it was a cash line. So really those single entry tournaments that I play 20% of are only because, hey, what if my line goes nuts and, I could have won $5,000. I mean, I kind of like the situation there. Like, don't play any GPPs and just win double my money. Play a GPP and possibly win $1,000 or lose $5. So, that's kind of a quick rundown of how I look at everything, how I approach the slates. Like I said, I wake up every morning. I don't even look at the games a lot of times. I just, create a lineup on DraftKings or FanDuel, click a bunch of guys, I hit save. I go to the contest. I join all the single entry double ups I can. I join a couple single entry tournaments. And then throughout the day, I do the research. And then I just go into the lineups on DraftKings or FanDuel. I edit that and I hit save to all my entries, and it's done. So that's a quick rundown of how I approach things, how I play DFS. I've been doing this for a little while now, about 5 years, and I've had success just keeping the consistency of that 80-20 rule. And as the bankroll grows, you can play more. So I mean, if you're playing 5 to 10% a night, which is what I typically play, I mean, when I started, say I had $500, now I have 10,000. I'm playing 500 to 1,000 a night rather than $20. Everybody's different. We've had people that that I know that started with $5 or a free entry and won $1, and then turned that $5 into 20 and turned that 20 into 100. It doesn't happen overnight. It won't happen with one contest. Usually, it takes some time. But if you stick to it and you want to be successful at this and you want to have some success playing this and having fun, you just have to be disciplined and you have to be consistent. I know it's a hard thing to do because it's a compulsive thing that we do, which is gamble on basketball players and football players and hockey players that we have no control over. But that's the risk. And if you want to be successful at this, you got to be consistent. You got to be disciplined. So hopefully the video helps. If you have any questions, just let me know. DFS Eggheads on Twitter. My name is Dan. You can DM me on there as well. And yeah, good luck tonight. And I hope this helps. Thanks.